Welcome, my dear friends. Today, our eminent resource person, Dr.P.Manjula Madam Garu, Assistant Professor, Department of Botany, RBVRR Women's College Autonomous. Madam is going to explain about the important area for all competitive exams, especially uh, ecology and biodiversity. Today onwards, Madam is going to take the classes. The most important points Madam is going to cover in these days. So, my dear friends, listen carefully. Madam, please welcome and share your screen. Start your session. Madam. Please welcome.
Okay, thank you, sir. Okay, thank you, sir. Good afternoon, Vanilla. So from today onwards, we will discuss about the ecology, main topics. So, what is the concept of ecosystem? So, generally in the environment or in this ecosystem, so first one is what is the ecosystem? So, ecosystem means it is the interaction between the living organisms with its surroundings. It is called as a ecosystem. So generally ecology. So ecology means it is a branch of science. It mainly deals with the interaction of organisms with its environment. So it is called as the ecology. Okay. So ecology, it is a branch of science. So that deals with the interaction between the organisms with its environment. It is called as the ecology according to Haeckel. So there are many supporting systems like forest, oceans, grasslands, deserts, and which have the structural components and functions. So generally, so they all have the living organisms which are interacting with their surroundings and exchanging the matter and energy. Okay, so generally, for example, if we take any area, so there is both living organisms and their non-living objects, that is abiotic components. So the interaction between these living and their surroundings, it is called as the ecology. So the word ecology was coined by Ernst Haeckel in 1869 from the Greek word. So it is ecology, it is a term Greek word. Oikos means home and logos means study. That is study of homes. So ecology, it is the study of organisms in their natural home. That is interacting with the biotic and abiotic components. So generally in any area, so there is both living organisms are present and it is surrounded by the abiotic components like soil, water, light. So these all, so it is the interaction between the living organisms with its surrounding habitat. So ecosystem, it is a self-regulating group of biotic communities of the species interacting with one another with their non-living environment and exchanging the energy and matter. So therefore the ecology, it can be termed as a study of ecosystem. So here ecosystem, it is only we are taking a particular area, only it is a part of ecology. So it is only we are taking a particular area. Okay, it is a one group. So here different types of ecosystems like forest ecosystem, pond ecosystem, woodland ecosystem. So based on the organism, so here different types of ecosystems are there. But here the ecology means it is the study of ecosystems. Okay. So ecosystem, it is a unit or it is a system which is composed of number of subunits. So they may exchange energy and matter from the outside, that is the open ecosystem, or it may be isolated from the outside in a closed one. Okay, so closed ecosystem, it is the artificial ecosystem. So that is the ecosystem which is constructed by the man. So for example, here what you call aquariums or croplands. So they comes under this artificial ecosystem. So life on the earth is sustained by the flow of energy from sun and cycling of nutrients. So for this, all the living organisms, the main source of energy is the sun. So next one is what are the characteristics of an ecosystem. So ecosystem, generally we already discussed that generally it is the interaction between the living organisms with its surrounding. So what are the components which are present means? So here the structure of the ecosystem, what are the functions of ecosystem? So all this comes under this characteristics of an ecosystem. So first one is the structure of the ecosystem. That is ecosystem. It consists of both living organisms and non-living substances. So here it is called as a biotic structure and abiotic structure. So in the functions of ecosystem, that is the first one is a trophic structure. Next one is a food chains, food webs, ecological pyramids, energy flow, and nutrients. So these all comes under the functions of ecosystem. Next one is the ecological successions. Okay, so first one is first we will discuss about the structure of the ecosystem. So generally ecosystem which is made up of two components, that is the abiotic components and biotic components. So abiotic components which includes climatic factors and edaphic factors. So abiotic means that is a non-living things. Biotic components means that is the living organisms comes under the biotic components. So again here the abiotic components, again they are classified into two types, that is the climatic factors and edaphic factors. So climatic factors again rain, light, wind, temperature. So these all are comes under the climatic factors. Whereas the edaphic factors means soil. That is present in the soil, minerals, oxygen, and what is the structure of this soil. So different types of soil. So all these comes under the edaphic factors. So abiotic factors which includes the non-living objects, that is the temperature, light, wind, rain. So all non-living comes under these abiotic factors. And edaphic means mainly the soil, types of soil, what are the minerals and nutrients available in the soil. All this comes under the edaphic factors. So biotic components again here, that is living organisms, they are again classified into mainly three types based on their function. Okay, so biotic components are classified into mainly three types based on their function. So first one is the producers. So the living organisms, they mainly concentrating the producing the energy. So they are called as the producers. They are also known as the autotrophs. That is, they produce the energy. So producers means they produce energy. So mainly example for this is the plants. Second one is the consumers. So they are also known as the heterotrophs. They consume and transfer the energy. So these consumers mainly dependent on these producers to get energy. And third one is the decomposers. So in the name only, they decompose the organic matter. So here living organisms are again classified into mainly based on their function into three groups, that is producers, consumers, and decomposers. So producers means they produce the energy. Example for producers are plants. Second one is a consumer, so animals comes under this, and they dependent on the producers. And decomposers means they mainly they decompose the organic matter, dead organic matter. They are known as the decomposers. So microorganisms comes under this, bacteria and some type of microorganisms comes under the decomposers. So first one is the biotic components. So based on the function here, the biotic components are classified into three types. So first one is the producers. Producers mean they produce their own food either by the process of photosynthesis or by the chemosynthesis or chemical process. So the plants, they produce the food by photosynthesis, that is using the sun, carbon dioxide and water in the presence of chlorophyll. So they are called as the autotrophs. Another name for producers is the autotrophs. So there are some microorganisms which also produce the organic matter to some extent by the oxidation of certain chemicals in the absence of sunlight. So they are called as the chemotrophs. So, so here producers again autotrophs and chemotrophs. So autotrophs in the presence of sunlight, whereas the chemotrophs in the absence of sunlight, in the presence of chemicals. So they are called as the chemotrophs. So first one is the producers, and second one component, that is the biotic component, it is the consumer. So all organisms which get their food by feeding on other organisms, they are called as the consumers. So the organisms which mainly dependent on the producers, so they are called as the consumers. Okay, so again these consumers, again they are different types. That is, first one is the herbivores, carnivores, omnivores, detrivores, etc. So first one is the herbivores. So consumers mean they dependent on other organisms for their energy. They are called as the consumers. So again, these consumers are again classified into herbivores and carnivores and omnivores. So first one is the herbivores. Herbivores means mainly they feed on the producers only. They are called as the primary consumers. So consumers which mainly dependent on the producers, they are called as the herbivores. That is plant eaters. So they only eat plants only. Okay. So they are called as the herbivores. So next one is a carnivores. So carnivores means they feed on the other consumers. So if they feed on the herbivores, they are called as a secondary consumers. Example is frog. If they feed on carnivores, so that is the tertiary carnivores are tertiary consumers. Example snake and big fish. So if the carnivores, if they feed on the herbivores, they are the secondary consumer. So if they feed on the carnivores, so they are called as the tertiary carnivores are consumers. So example for this is snake and big fish. So omnivores. So another type, they feed on both plants and animals. Okay. So here, for example, herbivores, for example, herbivores, so generally that is, they are the vegetarians. Okay. So here the carnivores means they are non-vegetarians, but here omnivores, they eat both veg and non-veg. That is, they both feed on the plants and animals. So they are called as the omnivores. So example for this is man and many birds and fox. So another one is the detrivores. So they feed on the parts of the dead organisms. That is the dead organic matter, the fallen leaf material or others. So waste of the living organisms. So they are also known as the saprotropes or detritus feeders. So mainly here consumers. So herbivores means they mainly dependent on the producers for their energy. So they are called as the herbivores. Carnivores means they mainly dependent on the other consumers. They are called as the carnivores. So omnivores means they feed both plants and animals. So detrivores means they feed on the dead organic matter or waste of the living organisms. So they are called as the detrivores or saprotropes or detritus feeders. So another one is the decomposers. So they derive energy by breaking down the complex organic matter to simple ones. So decomposer, they mainly convert these food materials, that is complex substances into simple one. They break down the complex substances into simple one. So example for this decomposers are bacteria and fungi. So here biotic components based on their function, they are classified into three types. That is the producers, consumers and decomposers. So producers mean they are mainly involved in the synthesis of food material. So the main source of energy for these producers is the solar energy, that is the sun. In the presence of sun, so these plants, they synthesize the food materials. So these are the some of the examples. Second one is the abiotic components. So they include various physical